Hello, everyone. Today is February 16 here on the East Coast in the United States. The year is 2021. This is the Contour Community Meeting. Welcome, everyone. Today we have one topic that we're going to talk about, and that is the roadmap.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I am Nick. I'm the tech lead for Contour. I have been working on updating our roadmap document in the community repo. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, you got that? This is a compare that I haven't opened an actual PR yet because I wanted to talk to everybody before I did it. So this is our roadmap document. This is a PR of some changes I have in my branch. And the TLDR here is that I wanted to update this so that we could have updated in the last like 5 months. But we've finished some roadmap items. We finished we finished these ones. Status information, external auth. We've exposed a bunch more config knobs and made a way that we can do that more sustainably in the future. We've moved to XDS v3. We've got a Helm chart, and Daniel has done amazing work on bringing the operator to alpha. So those ones I want to mark as completed. I feel it's good to leave the completed ones there for future reference. And so anyone have anything they want to say on that before I go any further?
I like I like having that list of completed tasks at the bottom there.
Yeah, I do too. It's satisfying. Okay, so you can see I've taken those ones out of here. You can see I thought it would be good to use the diff here. And I've also added a couple more columns in. So originally we only had a timeline thing. I've added an issue column for if we have an associated issue already, so you can go straight from this thing. Although it looks like I'll have to change those to actual links. I wasn't sure if the GitHub magic leaky thing would work or not. It looks like it doesn't, so I will go back through and change them all to actual links. But yeah, so first one off the rank that we're already working on is implementing Cube v1, Ingress v1. So I think first part there is wildcard host names, which Sanjay has, right, Sanjay?
Yep.
Yep.
Working on that, and yeah, going through configuring Envoy to try to match on wildcard host names. And I think there's going to be some interesting stuff around TLS certificates and how we do the logic around that. But
Yes.
that'll be figured out in my PR.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we didn't do that previously, is that there was always going to be some fiddliness there. Okay, so rate limiting support. Well, this is mostly done, and Chris has a PR up for this at the moment that will deliver the global rate limiting support. So hopefully we should be able to mark this one closed very soon. Then there's a couple of ones. There's this one here. We've got wildcard path matching as its own thing. I'll move that up so it's next to the Ingress v1. We've got an old request to support the access log service that we said we would get to last year, but we didn't. So I've moved that to April this year. It's actually not too big a deal now. We have the infrastructure to support it. Basically, in order to do this, you need to tell Envoy that there is an access log service somewhere and that it should send its logs there. That's a change in the bootstrap, I think. So we just have to have a way to configure that. Yeah, and we just need to design how that actually works. Gateway APIs. Now, for those of you who don't know, I think I'm not sure if everyone knows, but the service APIs have been renamed to the gateway APIs. That's all of that renaming stuff has happened. That repo is now called gateway APIs. It's all finished. And so yeah, we've got that issue that's there is the PR to introduce preliminary support for the gateway APIs. I'd like to get up to I think version 0.2 of the gateway API is released like an hour ago. So I think we should move to supporting that one because it includes the rename to gateway APIs. as we can. I know Steve has an initial PR up. I took a pass over that. It looks pretty good. But yeah, there's a lot to do to get actual support. Steve, do you want to say anything there?
No, yeah, I just did a bare bones to get like a route going. And I started to put, and I didn't finish it, but anyone can help pick this up. But on that issue, I started putting out like subtasks of things to fix or things to add. An idea is that we could then, parcel out the work, and someone could take an issue and say, hey, I'm going to work on this thing. So it'll help other folks join in and help out. And then two, it'll help the reviewer understand, because you can't implement all of it at once. So understand like, hey, I'm focusing on this feature. And then, when doing reviews. So it's all on that parent issue there. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. So there's another older one here that's marked as self-service capabilities in Contour. The sort of the root ask here is to ask about is to say, hey, I want to be able to add. Right now, HTTP proxy supports including other HTTP proxies, but in order to include a new HTTP proxy, you have to edit the including HTTP proxy to tell it where to go to. And the original intent there was to make it so that the cluster operator would be able to say, I'm going to include only this HTTP proxy. And then you could then, once you had that HTTP proxy being pointed to, then you could make your own tree from there. But what people have asked for is to be able to make it so that pretty much what people want is to be able to have a selector there instead, to be able to say, include all of the HTTP proxies that match this label selector, essentially. And so in order for us to be able to do that, though, we needed to have a way to manage conflicts. And so Steve S has also been working on a conflict resolution PR that I think is pretty close, a design for conflict resolution that I think is pretty close now. And that will help with this, but it won't fully fix it. So I've marked this one as May. We're going to need to spend a little bit more design time to figure out what to do and actually implement it. It may get pushed back again, though. Any questions from anyone so far? Cool. No. Okay, I'll just keep going. Please stop me if you have any questions about these, or if you have any other questions. We need to
just one question, Nick. So I see these listed per month. So would you say that these are the major themes for that month's release so far?
Yeah, pretty much. I've most of these I've just pulled out of the air. So I'm 100%. When I open the actual PR, I'm 100% willing to be talked around, or we can shuffle these around or whatever. I just wanted to have for the ones that I'm pretty confident we should be doing, or we previously gave a date for. I've put a date in for. Other ones, as you can see here, I've left to unknown. Cool. So other stuff we've talked about before was incorporating the Envoy's Go control plane so that we're not using our own homebrewed XDS. Steve S has already made a start on this. I think there's still some work to do. I can't remember where it's up to, but anyway, in any case, it's not super important just yet, but it's going to help with a couple of other issues that are further down. Anything for anyone on that one?
No, part of that was just playing around with it and make sure that it doesn't break folks. I mean, it's implemented, and you can switch to it now. It's been in Contour for a while, but folks want to start playing with it, and if they have a dev cluster or something they want to switch to, that it would be interesting to see if there are any issues that come out of that using that version of the XDS.
Yeah, because there's a couple of so anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. Thanks, Steve. Next one is Contour Operator GA. This is 100% a date that I pulled out of nowhere. Daniel, do you have a timeline on when you want the operator to be GA?
I don't have a timeline. I just wonder right now it's alpha. Do we want to target beta before we target GA? Or
that probably makes sense. Yes. Yeah. How about I put Contour Operator beta in, so it's February now, let's say like April or something. Like, does that seem reasonable, Daniel? April, May, something like that?
Yeah, we can throw a date out there. It would, I probably just need to kind of look at the Kube documentation, or I think we even have documentation on our docs page of like, what's a benchmark for going from alpha to beta. That's what I'd be interested in knowing.
Yeah. Also, I'll change this for now to April, and then if you could have a look, and then I won't merge this PR until you've sort of thumbs up, given me a thumbs up on that. So yeah, have a look when you can, and I'll ping you on the PR when I actually open it, and then you can tell me what you think about that. And same goes for all of these dates for everyone as well, please. If you have any reason to feel that we should, if you have requests, or there are community members, if there are requests that you need stuff brought in, then please feel free to tell us, and we can. These are changeable. Like once I make this PR, there's no reason why we can't change it again. This is just so that we have something written down. Yeah, and of course, Alex, as product manager, you get veto rights here. But please feel free to hit me if there's any of these that you think are unreasonable. Okay, so here's some of the ones that I think are a little bit more interesting. I've left them as unknown because I have absolutely no idea how long some of these things are going to take. The first one is that we've had a couple of requests for this, and it'll help tick our general feature boxes. To have a way to say, hey, Contour, you can do OADC for using Envoy's external auth. Right now, there's not a good way to prove that that's possible, so we can't have a tick in any sort of feature comparisons. So that's the second one here, adding OADC support to Contour Auth server. Now, Robin Foe, who's a community member, has opened a PR to do this, and that's working his way through. James Peach, although he's no longer a maintainer, is still helping a lot there on that PR. So the other maintainers, if you could check that PR out, I would appreciate it. But yeah, once we've done that, then the other thing that we can, it seems reasonable for people to say, hey, right now the Contour Auth server is sort of marked as use this for testing, don't use it in prod, and it seems reasonable for us to be able to say at some point, like, what do you need to do to make this usable in prod? This one I'm not 100% sure should be in the roadmap, but I put it in there so that we could talk about it. So
I think we have to support OIDC. It has to be in prod, right? It doesn't make sense to do something and say we can only support it for test environments. Whatever we go with, like the final goal is to make sure that it does work in prod.
Yep. So I think we've got a couple of options there to harden our existing thing, or to work to get Envoy external auth support added to various OIDC things. Like I've put harden in there just because I think that just means that we would need a proper release process, CI, good testing, all that sort of stuff to make sure that as we do changes to Contour, then this stuff doesn't break. Some of that will be helped by some of the other things further down. Another operational one here is reevaluate where we store our container images. Right now they're on Docker Hub. Docker Hub has rate limiting that applies to us. So we need to decide if we're going to stay there or move to another container host. Options that I have seen other open source projects moot, either the Google Container Registry or the GitHub Container Registry. I think, and there are some other options as well that I'd like people to investigate as part of that. There's no issue for this one yet because we haven't logged yet. This is super early stages, but wanted to put it out there as something that we are considering because it's a reasonably significant operational impact for people who are actually running Contour. So we need to manage that carefully.
How much of the, how much rate limiting are we looking at right now?
It's hard to tell because the rate limiting is not by container. It's by like the puller of the container. So if you're someone who pulls who starts like 100 machines from the same IP block and they all pull Contour, then you're probably going to get rate limited. If you have an internal container registry that only pulls one copy of the container, the Contour container when it changes, then you probably won't get rate limited. So it's not a huge deal. That's why it's not super important. But it just means that because we don't know how it could affect users, it feels to me like we probably need to at some point look at moving away from Docker Hub.
Yeah,
Also, I
we
think-
definitely should.
Oh.
I was gonna say,
Also, Docker Hub started deleting old images, I believe, too. So if anyone's on an old version that's ridiculously old, they'd be affected. Obviously, they should upgrade, but that could
I
be
think
a
it's like 6 months retention. If it hasn't
Yeah.
been pulled in 6 months,
Yeah.
then it's automatically recycled.
So yeah, I think at some point, like probably before I merge this PR, I will open issues to cover anything that we don't have issues for already, so that we have a link here that people can go to look at what the current updates are, and they can watch an issue to see how that roadmap item is doing. Okay. Next one. This one's for load balancing and sticky sessions. We've got a request. So we've Sanjay has done a PR for, is that in 113 or was it in 112? I can't remember. The header hash.
112.
It was into
Yeah,
112.
that was
Okay,
in
thanks.
112.
So yeah, so that's in already. But this issue that's here is to expose the full suite of hash calculating functionality for if you're using sticky sessions. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do to generate a hash, and there are reasons to do some of it. And so this basically just says, hey, you should just make it so that people can get to the underlying thing. I'm still, I think it's reasonable to do this. It does, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. This will be for HTTP proxy only, obviously, and then it'll be interesting to see how the service APIs, the gateway APIs evolve, like this sort of thing, as and how what we can contribute back upstream as to how to do that in a more in a less coupled to Envoy kind of way. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep looking at it now. There's a lot of discussion on that issue. Okay.
Sorry, Nick. Is that 3044, the one you're just talking about?
Yes, 3044.
Thanks.
There's a couple of other like session cookie related issues that are also similar. Sanjay, I think you've got at least one of them. I think there was one that was about the attributes added to the cookie and stuff like that helps with when you're using the cause settings. Some of that requires Envoy PRs, like upstream PRs, I seem to recall. Is that right, Sanjay? I think.
Yeah, it either requires Envoy PRs or it requires more Lua in Contour, because it seems like people in the Envoy community have just been happy with writing some Lua instead of implementing. I haven't found too many issues where Envoy maintainers have come in and been like, oh yeah, we're not going to do this. But it seems like those issues where people wanted some attributes on cookies, they got closed out by people saying, oh, I'll be fine with just writing some Lua to do things. So we could take a couple paths depending on our comfort level with either one.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so some of that's just that I feel that one's BAU and not really worthy of full roadmap items. Next one though is much more worthy. But I'm not 100% sure. Is having an IP block list, allowing people to say, don't allow connections from these IPs. I think pretty sure people like this one for more secure contexts. Obviously you probably want, if you're going to do a block list, you probably want an allow list as well for the inverse operation. I'm not 100% sure if people want this one, but it is I checked a couple of the ingress controller comparisons, and this is a red cross where we could otherwise have a green tick. So, again,
this has come up a bunch. Folks have asked for this.
Yeah, I was pretty sure folks had asked for it, but I don't think we've ever had any issues logged about it. I couldn't find any when I just with a quick search. Okay, so if people have asked for it, then we should generate an issue so that there's a place for them to go to talk about exactly what they want. The other ones that I know for sure have been ones are tracing. There's a lot of conversation on that 399 issue. You can see by the number, it's pretty old. Configurable circuit breaking. That's right now we actually use Envoy's defaults for circuit breaking, which means that if you go over a certain number of connections to a cluster, the cluster will flip into there's a few metrics there, but the cluster will circuit break and say, hey, you shouldn't be sending this many things there. The fact that we don't have more people running into this says that, people might not be running into this too much, but basically we just need to make a way that you can configure that. I feel like we've got patterns that should handle this now. It's a pretty old ticket as well, but yeah, just need to have that somewhere on the roadmap that we should fix it up at some point. Anything there? Ooh, okay. The second last one here is properly handle Envoy NAC messages. This one is actually a pretty significant blocker to a lot of things. This is the problem where if you don't handle the NAC message, if you send a config to Envoy and Envoy doesn't accept it for whatever reason, and you don't handle the message that says, hey, I didn't accept that config, basically Contour will continue sending that config, Envoy will continue rejecting it, and they will fall out of sync, and you have to restart Envoy even if you fix things, because there's some nonsense that get out of sync and some stuff like that with our current implementation. Hopefully, if we move to the Go control plane, this is either solved for us or we can solve it upstream, and then everybody gets the benefit. There's a lot of work to do here though, because the way that we do the DAG run means that Contour takes the kube config. If there's a change, does a DAG run, then takes that DAG run and sends it out to all the envoys. If we're going to do NACs, then that means that there's a risk that when you send out a config to Envoy, it might not be accepted, which means you need another stage between taking the DAG output and sending it to Envoy, where you hold 2 copies of the DAG, send a new one and see if it's accepted, and if not, then you got to spray a bunch of errors around it and we figure out what we do with it. The good part though is that you're holding, maybe either that Go control plane will handle this for us transparently, or if we do have to hold 2 copies of the DAG, then that also lets us do the incremental XDS stuff, hopefully, which is I haven't put on here yet because it's a long way away.
So Go control plane doesn't have support for it, but incremental should merge soon, I think.
Yes.
So look, we can get them in reverse order easier.
Weird. Okay, so weird that you can do the incremental without having the NAC support. That's weird. But in any case, if we get incremental from Go control plane, that probably means that then we should just move Go control. We should gradually move Go control plane to the default and allow people to set up incremental, because incremental is far more efficient. But yeah, so at the end of the day, we need a way to handle the NAC messages, whether it's Go control plane or whether it's our implementation. That needs to be done. That is stopping us from doing a bunch of stuff that requires you to send config to Envoy to figure out if Envoy is going to accept it. Right now, we cannot send a config to Envoy unless we are 100% certain that Envoy will accept it. That means that we have to sanitize everything we send. We can only have allow lists for a bunch of user provided config and a whole bunch of stuff like that. It also blocks things like allowing people to specify Lua filters, although I still am not convinced that's a good idea. It's literally not possible at the moment, because if you send a bad Lua thing and Envoy tells you it's bad, then right now you will just break your Contour install. Okay. And around that, the last one is just generally improving Contour testing. We had some chats in one of the maintainers catch-ups about this, but the sort of the end state here that we want is something where we have regular end-to-end tests that include things like performance testing, upgrade testing, and testing the operator, and a bunch of other things like that we need a bunch more infrastructure. We need to figure out exactly what we're going to do, and then figure out how we're going to do it, and then do it. So there's a lot of work covered there under that. That issue that's linked there is just the initial sort of discovery/design issue that Steve Chris is running with. I think that's all of them. Oh no, wait, there's a couple more here. Yeah, so there's a couple. One of the important ones here is UDP support. I wanted to officially mark this as, hey, we're not gonna do this for a while. That's what I wanted to say here. But note that quick support is separate to general UDP support. HTTP3 support is separate to that. The TLDR here is, I don't think the Contour, even if we built a layer 4 thing, the way that Kubernetes ingress works, it's actually going to be really hard to do any UDP protocol. You might be able to do specific ones that have mechanisms equivalent to the HTTP exported for at a higher protocol level, but you can't do straight UDP forwarding in an ingress controller in Kubernetes without ensuring that the pods route all of their IP traffic back through the proxy that you're using. I want to spend some time and make a presentation about this that makes it much less confusing than what I just said. But the net effect is TLDR, it's actually really hard to do full UDP layer 4 support for specific protocols that have high level constructs that let you like rewrite the IP address but still be able to get to the outside IP address like exported for does, or the proxy protocol. Then we might be able to add something which HTTP3 does, but a couple of the protocols that people have definitely asked for, like SIP, do not have that. And so because they don't have it, it's actually not going to be possible for us to do it without mandating a lot of stuff about the way that their networking stack works, which Contour currently doesn't do. So I want to spend some time and I will make like a presentation that I can give to one of the community meetings about exactly what the story is with that and why it makes it really hard to do UDP support. But for now, the position is, as it has been for a while, Contour is a layer 7 HTTP ingress controller. Sorry, I'll make sure that says HTTP ingress controller, and that's it. We only do layer 4 insofar as it allows you to forward HTTP sessions. That's it. So I wanted to make sure that that's listed on there.
Yep, I think that makes sense. Just two things. I think, Nick, sharing this would be great with the community if you're going to do some presentation, but I don't know. I feel like we should leave it off this roadmap chart if we're not going to support it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. Or the other thing I thought about was putting it down in a won't support section or something like that, because we have had it on here before. It is currently on there. I feel like just that's not me adding it. Like, we had UDP support as a roadmap item because people have asked for it. There is an issue open for it. So I think we need to have it on here in such a way that points people to that issue and says, we're not going to do this. So open to feedback on how best to represent that. But I don't think it's fair to the community to remove it altogether without any explanation.
Yeah, and on the ticket, I don't know if we have like a won't fix or not
we do have a
label.
We do have a won't fix label, yeah. So we can put it on that issue. I think right now the issue is still open. Yeah, probably I'd say we should close it and put the won't fix label on it. We've put it on and taken it off a couple of times. And say, I think the thing we need to say on there is that is that the standard open source rule applies. No is temporary, but yes is forever. So, it doesn't mean that it will always be no, but right now it's no for these reasons. So that when people ask about it, we can say we're not going to do it for these reasons.
Great. I just want to share that, there are some customers that have been asking for it. I came across them in recent weeks. UDP is not exactly table stakes, but it is like a nice bonus. But
yeah,
the customer is also aware, right, of the challenges, like you said, of supporting generic UDP. So, yeah. but they're looking at specific services over UDP, right? Like syslog. They're interested in supporting, like, can Contour support syslog traffic routing? So that's, we might think about that in the future, right? Instead of supporting all of UDP.
Yeah. So I think specific protocol stuff is okay because you can put things around how it works. Again, we're out of time, so I don't want to spend any time about it now. But I'll make sure that I'll include how syslog would work if we did it in Contour, and why it probably wouldn't be a problem, depending on exactly how you configured it. Because there's a few ways that you can configure it. But yeah, as I said, I'm sort of building some notes to make a presentation about this so that I can run everybody through it, because I think it is really confusing and it is really hard to understand. It feels like we should just be able to, you can expose a TCP port, right? Why can't you just expose a UDP port? And I think that's a reasonable question to ask, that we need to have an answer written down for, or an answer available for. And so I want to provide that answer in a way that people will understand why we can't do it, and why you can't just do that without it. again, I think I've said this before, it just requires extra access to the layer 3 and 4 stuff that Contour currently doesn't ask for. And so it would be a significant change in what Contour requires to be installed. And that's why, in the past, I have said we should do it as a separate repo if we do it at all. Okay, sorry, I've talked about that enough. I have talked way too much. Does anyone else have anything they want to say about the roadmap? Anything they want to add to the roadmap, or any other questions about the roadmap?
I'll probably add a couple of items as well. Are you gonna go ahead and merge that PR first, and I'll just work off that, or?
Yeah, I think that probably makes sense. I'll open this PR. Feel free to ask for extra items in there if you want me to add them, or if you want to add them yourself after this one merges, that's fine too. Standard process. We'll just have a couple of people approve the PR and then merge it.
Great. Yeah, I think like IPv6 we talked about, right?
Yes, that is
some point this year. Contour is going to support running it on IPv6 environments. So.
Yep. So I think we need to have IPv6 single stack and dual stack as separate roadmap items. Cool. Jonas, you waved a finger.
Yeah, just a simple request. So at the first meeting of every month, I think it would make sense if we can just go through, or the first meeting after each release, rather. We can go through the roadmap and just see, hey, here's what's done, and here's what we're working on in this release.
Okay, I think that seems quite reasonable.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nick, does it make sense for the Gateway API feature to also link to the operator, the design spec for the operator?
It absolutely
maybe make notes somewhere as well that just kind of, I don't know how we can encapsulate just that certain APIs are going to be supported by Contour, certain APIs are going to be supported by the operator.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So maybe what I'll do is, so I think as part of doing the Gateway API support, we're going to have to deliver like a document that explains how Project Contour, the broader organization, supports the Gateway API, i.e. with the operator, the combination of the operator and the ingress controller. And so what I'll do for now, though, is just put a separate item in there about operator Gateway API support. And then I think we can just keep that one up to date as we go along. But yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you. Cool. Anything else from anyone? Nope. Before I let you finish up there, Jonas, I wanted to say a welcome to, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name, man. May? Yeah. Welcome. Thanks for all your contributions so far. Great to see you.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for coming along. Okay. That's it from me, Jonas.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining the meeting today. Have a fantastic rest of the week and see you all next week. Bye folks.